Hi guys, welcome to this week's international break special here on Borough on My Mind. We've played 8 games, 6 in the league, 2 in the cups, and now we're starting to get a real look at what the squad's looking like. So me, Tobber, Caiden and Max are going to give our player ratings for all the players that have made 2 or more appearances for us this season for the first 8 games. So, player number 1 for the video, we're going to go for Bilokapic. What have you lot given him out of 10, starting with you, Caiden?
For me, he has some good games, but then he also had some games where he's made some mistakes. Like Barnsley, I thought he was really good, but he also made a mistake. But overall, I'd give him a 6.5.
Yeah, I agree sort of with you that he's been a bit inconsistent, had some good games, had some bad ones. I've gone a bit more than a 6.5 because I still think he saved us more points than he's lost us. I've given him a 7 out of 10.
Yes, he's made mistakes, but he's also made very good saves, and he's kept us in a few games. I've also gone for a 7 out of 10.
I've gone for a similar thing. I think he's got consistency issues, and he can be prone to a mistake. But I also think he's made some great saves. He's kept us in games. He kept us in the Barnsley game and definitely was great against Reading as well. So I've given him a 6.5.
So yeah, we all sort of agreed with the last one, all around 6.57. Wonder if we'll agree with this one. The next player we're going to do is Josh Knight. What have you given him, Caden?
I've given him a 6. I would say he's been solid, reasonably solid when he has had the chance to play. I wouldn't go any higher, but I wouldn't go any lower either. So I think 6 is fair.
For me, I've given him a 7. I think that he's been very good when he came on. Even against Derby, he was really good when he came on. He was excellent away at Portsmouth in the Carabao Cup. He's got to be a contender for the captaincy for me if he stays at the football club. I've given him a 7. I think he's had a very positive start, and I think he should have played himself into the lineup and should start our next game.
I completely agree with Caden. I've also gone for a 6, and I think every time he's gone off the bench, he's been solid. He's done what he needed to do, and he was very good in the cup. So I think 6 is very fair for Josh Knight.
I'm going to be annoying because I've given Knight a 6.5. I think I haven't seen enough of him, but when he's come on, he's been phenomenal, and he's really impacted the way he drives the ball up through the midfield and delivers to the flanks. He can do both. Rather than Ronnie Edwards, I feel can only do one. He can really only play those like diagonal balls. I don't think really he can drive through the midfield and play the right pass, whereas Josh Knight does that better than he does, I think.
Right, so the next one is Peter Kioso, joined on loan from Rotherham. Seems to have slotted straight in. What have you given him, Caden?
I've given him a 7. I think he's been pretty good so far. The team haven't been up to his standards, I would say, so far. He's been a lot better than a lot of the rest. So I think 7 is what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, for me, I completely agree that he's been a shining light in a lot of games. I've actually gone higher than a 7. I've gone for an 8 for Peter Kioso. I think he slotted in excellently, seems to have built up a really good relationship with Poku going forward and with the other defenders defensively. He's been pretty perfect in most games. I'm going to give him an 8. I think he's had a very, very good start to the season.
I think me and Caden need to stop agreeing on things. Just getting the same numbers is quite frustrating, actually. I've been quite impressed with Peter Kioso, to be honest. I think he's done very, very well so far. Very well. I've also gone for a 7.
Peter Kioso is my one and only 8 rated player. I think Peter Kioso has been amazing. In the attack and the build-up and the overlap, he basically becomes a winger for us. And then in defence, he becomes almost like a brick wall. He's very passionate as well, which is what I like in a player.
Moving on to a player that I think may be a little bit more controversial, Ronnie Crichlow. What have you all given him?
I've given him a 5. I think he's been pretty average. I don't think he's been that great.
I don't agree that we can go that low with Ronnie Crichlow. I've given him a 6.5. I think he's been actually quite good. He was our best defender at Cobblers, I thought. Very good in the first 3 games. You know, he's had an all right start to the season, and one mistake doesn't change that. Everyone makes a mistake. We're a young team. We're going to make mistakes.
He can't defend crosses.
He didn't defend crosses well in our last 2 games, but we didn't defend crosses well as a team.
I've also gone for a 5 rating for Crichlow. I think he's been bang average. He's just been all right. He's done the job, but he's made a few mistakes that's led to unfortunate events.
So I've also gone with a 5. I think Crichlow is bang average. Does a job in this league. Does a job.
Oh, boys, that's harsh.
Sorry, you just copying me.
I think you're copying me, Phil. I don't
I made the list before you.
You made the list 5 minutes before the record.
Let's move on now to Ronnie Edwards.
So Ronnie Edwards, I'm going to go over 6.5. I would say he's been above average. Obviously, great player on the ball. Got to give him a 6.5.
I actually agree with you on this one. Ronnie gets a 6.5 for me. He's shown his quality in moments, but, I think he's still got a lot of work to do to reach the heights of last season.
I've gone slightly lower than you two. I don't think to his standards, I don't think he's been very good at all, to be fair. He's just been bang average, but he's been better than Crichlow, so I've gone for a 6.
I completely agree with Tobber. I've gone for a 6. I think he's an amazing centre-half and a great prospect, but I don't think he's kicked on. Come the end of the season, Ronnie's rating will be a lot higher, but I think for now a 6 is completely fair.
Let's move on to a player that I think might be quite divisive, might split some opinions, certainly has in recent conversations. Archie Collins, what have you given him, Caiden?
I've given him a 7. I think he's been pretty good for us so far. Great midfielder. And yeah, I'd like to see what else he can do for us. It's just a start. So hopefully he goes on to have a great time at Posh.
Yeah, I agree that he's there and thereabouts. I mean, he's definitely fallen off in the last couple of games, but that sort of fits in with the rest of the team. But in the first 3 games, he was an absolute Rolls Royce for us. I've given him a 6.5.
I think you've been very, very harsh, Charlie, on a 6.5. I'm not going to lie. I've gone for an 8. He's been one of our best players. He's been quality.
I love Archie Collins. I've got him as a 7, but I had him at an 8 originally, but I changed it to a 7 last minute. I think when the team form picks up, I think his form will pick up. So a 7 right now, I think, is completely adequate.
Next player is a player that hasn't played a lot, but we're going to go whiz through ratings for him anyway. Ajiboye, what are you giving him?
I'm going to give him a 6. I think he's done the job in most games that he's played. I think 6 is a fair rating.
Completely agree with you. I think for the first time, Caiden, I've gone for a 6 as well. think he was very good at Pompey away, scored that goal. Not set the world alight, but he's been all right. I'm going to give him a 6 as well.
Yeah, so I've gone lower than both of you. I've gone for a 4. He's
How?
He's had one good game in
Why?
the cup. He hasn't done anything in the league.
But it's because he's not been given the chance. He's not started any league games.
By that merit, you could say Josh Knight's a 4 as well, no?
But when Josh Knight's come on, he's done something.
Let's hear what Max has to say.
I've given him a 3.
Hang on a minute! What is going on?
Which is
What's that about?
I completely agree with Tobber. I think he offers nothing when he comes on. He's rubbish. Seriously, he's absolutely rubbish. I don't think he offers anything. He slows the game down entirely. He doesn't have the pace that Poku or Ethel Mason-Clark have.
Let's move on to Harrison Burrows.
So, I've given him a 4. I think that's fair. I mean, we've got to give him, the benefit of the doubt that he's obviously playing out of position. And yeah, he's not great defensively, in my opinion. And he's been our main weakness in defence. So yeah, a 4 for Harrison Burrows for me.
Yeah, 3 is the number he wears on his back. And that's what I've given him as well. A 3 for Harrison Burrows. He's played at left back and it's been so clear. He's who every team tries to exploit. He's the weak link in the defence. As much as you can moan about Crichlow, he is the one that people target. He's not offered anything going forward, really. I think Sturridge will take his place soon. Yeah, Harrison Burrows needs to up his game for me or move into the 10, one of the two.
I've also gone for a 3. He hasn't impressed me at all at left back. He's clearly not a left back. And I just really hope this Sturridge is a good left back to replace him.
Yeah, I've given Burrows a 4. I'd give him a 1 if left back was his preferred position, but it isn't. So I think with the benefit of the doubt, I'll give him a 4.
Let's move on to Joe Randall. Oh, always believe in your soul. What have you given him, Caiden, Joe Randall?
What was that singing, by the way? Joe Randall, I'm going to give him a 6. I think he's been decent. He's been better some games than he has been others, but I'll give him a 6. Simple as that, really.
Yeah, I've given him a 7. I actually think he's been good. I think in the number 10, he's had little flicks, little tricks. I liked him. I still think he's had a good start to the season. He's been one of our better players, in my opinion, and that's why I've given him a 7.
I've gone for 6. He's been just above average for me. Last season, it was a solid 4, and he's been slightly better. So this season is a 6.
I've given him a 5, so I'm the lowest again. I can see why we've given him a 6 and a 7. I can see why. But I think there's definitely a player there, but I don't think he's shown it yet.
I mean, I just think you need to always believe in Joe Randall. Oh, sorry, I absolutely love that song.
Shut up.
What are you doing?
Anyway.
My AirPods broke.
Let's move on to our next player, a player that I think we can all agree has been all right, to be fair. Hector Kyprianou.
I've gone with another 7. He's been above average, definitely. And again, he's had some good games and he's had some games not as good as his best, but I definitely like him. And I'm glad that he's able to start every game for us.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I've gone 7 as well. I was his biggest fan last season, constantly advocating for us to start him. And when we did towards the tail end of last campaign, he did not disappoint. He's been very good. I can't believe all the Leyton Orient fans were so happy when they sold him. They obviously didn't see what we see in him. He's an excellent player, in my opinion. Got a high ceiling to play in this league and above. I think a 7 is the fair rating for Hector Kyprianou.
I think he's been our best player so far this season. I've gone for a 9.
You know what? I rate that.
Even if we have a poor game, Hector always plays better than the rest. Like he's been very good.
I've given him a 7. I think the way he drops into our back line and makes the back three is so integral to how we sort of can sit, controls the midfield, dominates that in that central position. So yeah, no, I think a 7 is pretty fair.
Let's move on to a couple of big names. Johnson Clark Harris first. What have you guys given him?
So I've given him a 6.5. I think once he got into it after the first couple games, I think he's been good so far. Great finisher. And I'm really glad that he's staying till at least January.
I've been less kind to Johnson Clark Harris and I've given him 4.5. I think he scored 2 goals in the league, which isn't a great return for a striker. I think he's been a little bit dodgy, in my opinion. We play a very fast brand of football now where we try and go from defence to attack in sort of 2 passes. And he just can't keep up with it, in my opinion. He really can't keep up. I think there's a lot of times where our wingers want to whip in a first-time cross, want to whip a low ball in first time, and then they look into the middle. Where's our striker? I don't know. He's back on the halfway line.
I somewhat agree with Charlie on Jono. I've gone slightly out. I've gone for a 5. He ain't been great. He's scored 2 goals. 2 easy goals as well. Like, I'm scoring those goals.
You wouldn't have scored those goals, Tobber. Shut up.
Anyway, I've got Jono at a 6. I think, look, lads, he has been a bit rubbish. He's slow. He's less dynamic. He's lazy, but he knows where the net is, and he's proven that time and time again. I think I've given him a 6 not because of his goal output, but I feel like there's some leadership values that he still leaves on the pitch that I really quite like in him.
Let's move on to another player that's a bit controversial. From the former captain to the current club captain, Ephron Mason Clark. What have you made of his performances so far?
Mason Clark, I'm going with a 5.5. I don't think he's been quite up to his standards from how he left off last season. I'm going to go with a 5.5. It's maybe a bit harsh, but only 1 goal and 1 assist for him, and he's missed a few sitters.
Yeah, I can't give him any more than a 5.
I've gone for lower than both of you. I've gone for a 4. He's had 1 good game, that was Reading, and he got injured for a bit, and he ain't been the same.
Can we move on? Do I have to say mine? Because I'm going to get cooked. I've gone for a 7.
Whoa, that's high.
I was expecting a low rating.
I still think Ephron Mason Clark is one of our biggest threats, even though he has been off form. I don't think this captaincy thing is doing him any good. I don't know if he's cut out for it, to be honest. I wasn't really in the camp of Ephron Mason Clark for captain. And also this hamstring injury as well. I've got to give him the benefit of the doubt as well, because he's come back off his hamstring injury and he's still sitting defenders.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's move on. Ricky J. Jones. Less said about this, the better.
I've gone for a 5. Probably a bit higher than you lot, but I don't think he's been that bad. And the fact he got a goal at Pompey probably boosted it up a little bit.
To be fair, I've not gone massively lower. I've gone for a 4. He's not been terrible. He's not been as bad as people said he has. But I definitely think it will be higher by the end of the season.
I've gone lower. I've gone for a 3. I don't think he's a very good footballer at all, to be honest. He's not cut out for this level. In other words, he's absolutely useless. He's only a 3 for me because he's gave me about 5 minutes of excitement at Portsmouth. Otherwise, he would be a 1 or a 2.
Never fear, Tobber. I have given him a 1. He's awful. He's awful. He's absolutely atrocious. This season, he's been awful.
Our last player then. Hopefully, this one will be a bit more positive to round off the video. Kwame Poku, what are you going for?
He's a baller. I think he's a great player. And even though he's not been at his best, I don't think he's still been a 7 out of 10.
I think he's been absolutely top draw. I think that performance away at Barnsley is one of the best I've seen. I think he was absolutely unplayable for the whole game. He's an excellent player. He's been excellent all season. He absolutely sat Harvey Nibbs down at Reading, which gets him a bonus point for me. I've put him as my highest rated player. I've given him an 8.5. I think he's been excellent.
I've gone a bit lower than you, Charlie, but I do think he's been one of our best players this season. I think he's a bowler. He's a very, very good player. I've gone for a solid 7.
I've given him a 9. He sits defenders down like Efron Mason-Clark, and he's been more creative and more of a goal threat this season. So if I've given Efron Mason-Clark a 7, I've got to give Poku a 9, and I think he's been our best player this season.
That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Up the Posh.